A selection from the Sonnets of William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room. By William Wordsworth. Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room, and hermits are contented with their cells, and students with their pensive citadels. Maids at the wheel, the weaver at his loom, sit blithe and happy. Bees that soar for bloom, high as the highest peak of Furness fells, will murmur by the hour in foxglove bells. In truth, the prison unto which we doom ourselves no prison is, and hence for me, in sundry moods 'twas pastime to be bound within the sonnet's scanty plot of ground, pleased if some souls, for such there needs must be, who have felt the weight of too much liberty, should find brief solace there, as I have found. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Scorn not the sonnet. Critic, you have frowned. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Scorn not the sonnet. Critic, you have frowned, mindless of its just honours. With this key Shakespeare unlocked his heart. The melody of this small lute gave ease to Petrarch's wound. 1,000 times this pipe did Tasso sound. With it Camoens soothed an exile's grief. The sonnet glittered a gay myrtle leaf amid the cypress with which Dante crowned his visionary brow. A glow-worm lamp, it cheered mild Spenser called from fairyland to struggle through dark ways, and when a damp fell round the path of Milton, in his hand the thing became a trumpet, whence he blew soul-animating strains. Alas, too few. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Written in very early youth. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Calm is all nature as a resting wheel. The kine are couched upon the dewy grass. The horse alone, seen dimly as I pass, is cropping audibly his later meal. Dark is the ground. A slumber seems to steal o'er vale and mountain and the starless sky. Now in this blank of things, a harmony, home felt and home created, comes to heal the grief for which the senses still supply fresh food. For only then, when memory is hushed, am I at rest. My friends, restrain those busy cares that would allay my pain. Oh, leave me to myself, nor let me feel the officious touch that makes me droop again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. I watch and long have watched with calm regret. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. I watch and long have watched with calm regret yon slowly sinking star. Immortal sire, so might he seem, of all the glittering choir. Blue ether still surrounds him, yet and yet. But now the horizon's rocky parapet is reached, where, forfeiting his bright attire, he burns, transmuted to a dusky fire, then pays submissively the appointed debt to the flying moments, and is seen no more. Angels and gods, we struggle with our fate, while health, power, glory from their height decline. depressed and then extinguished, and our state in this how different, lost star, from thine, that no tomorrow shall our beams restore.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
How clear, how keen, how marvellously bright, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. How clear, how keen, how marvellously bright the effluence from yon distant mountain's head, which, strewn with snow, smooth as the sky can shed, shines like another sun on mortal sight uprisen, as if to check approaching night and all her twinkling stars. Who now would tread, if so he might, yon mountain's glittering head, terrestrial, but a surface by the flight of sad mortality's earth-sullying wing, unswept, unstained, nor shall the aerial powers dissolve that beauty, destined to endure, white, radiant, spotless, exquisitely pure, through all vicissitudes, till genial spring has filled the laughing vales with welcome flowers.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
While not a leaf seems faded, while the fields, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. While not a leaf seems faded, while the fields with ripening harvest prodigally fair in brightest sunshine bask, this nipping air, sent from some distant clime where winter wields his icy scimitar, a foretaste yields of bitter change, and bids the flowers beware, and whispers to the silent birds, prepare against the threatening foe your trustiest shields. For me, who under kindlier laws belong to nature's tuneful choir, this rustling dry through leaves yet green, and yon crystalline sky, announce a season potent to renew, mid frost and snow, the instinctive joys of song, and nobler cares than listless summer knew.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
There is a pleasure in poetic pains, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. There is a pleasure in poetic pains which only poets know. 'Twas rightly said, whom could the Muses else allure to tread their smoothest paths, to wear their lightest chains? When happiest fancy has inspired the strains, how oft the malice of one luckless word pursues the enthusiast to the social board, haunts him belated on the silent plains. Yet he repines not if his thoughts stand clear, at last, of hindrance and obscurity, fresh as the star that crowns the brow of morn, bright, speckless as a softly moulded tear the moment it has left the virgin's eye, or raindrop lingering on the pointed thorn.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Oxford, May 30th, 1820, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Ye sacred nurseries of blooming youth, in whose collegiate shelter England's flowers expand, enjoying through their vernal hours the air of liberty, the light of truth. Much have ye suffered from time's gnawing tooth, yet, O ye spires of Oxford, domes and towers, gardens and groves, your presence overpowers the soberness of reason, till in sooth, transformed and rushing on a bold exchange, I slight my own beloved Cam to range where silver Isis leads my stripling feet. Pace the long avenue, or glide adown the stream-like windings of that glorious street, an eager novice robed in fluttering gown.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Parsonage in Oxfordshire by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Where holy ground begins, unhallowed ends, is marked by no distinguishable line. The turf unites, the pathways intertwine, and wheresoe'er the stealing footstep tends, garden, and that domain where kindred, friends, and neighbours rest together, here confound their several features, mingled like the sound of many waters, or as evening blends with shady night. Soft airs from shrub and flower waft fragrant greetings to each silent grave, and while those lofty poplars gently wave their tops, between them comes and goes a sky bright as the glimpses of eternity to saints accorded in their mortal hour.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hail, Twilight, sovereign of one peaceful hour, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Hail, Twilight, sovereign of one peaceful hour! Not dull art thou as undiscerning night, but studious only to remove from sight day's mutable distinctions. Ancient power! Thus did the waters gleam, the mountains lower to the rude Briton, when in wolfskin vest, here roving wild, he laid him down to rest on the bare rock, or through a leafy bower looked ere his eyes were closed. By him was seen the selfsame vision which we now behold. At thy meek bidding, shadowy power brought forth these mighty barriers and the gulf between. The flood, the stars, a spectacle as old as the beginning of the heavens and earth.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mark the concentred hazels that enclose, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Mark the concentred hazels that enclose yon old grey stone, protected from the ray of noontide suns, and even the beams that play and glance, while wantonly the rough wind blows, are seldom free to touch the moss that grows upon that roof, amid embowering gloom, the very image framing of a tomb, in which some ancient chieftain finds repose among the lonely mountains. Live, ye trees, and thou, grey stone, the pensive likeness keep of a dark chamber where the mighty sleep, for more than fancy to the influence bends, when solitary nature condescends to mimic time's forlorn humanities.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Composed at Rydal on May morning, 1838, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. If with old love of you, dear hills, I share new love of many a rival image brought from far, forgive the wanderings of my thought. Nor art thou wronged, sweet May, when I compare thy present birth morn with thy last, so fair, so rich to me in favours. For my lot then was, within the famed Egerian grot, to sit and muse, fanned by its dewy air, mingling with thy soft breath. That morning, too, warblers I heard their joy unbosoming amid the sunny, shadowy Colosseum, heard them, unchecked by aught of saddening hue, for victories there won by flower-crowned spring, chant in full choir their innocent Te Deum.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Though the bold wings of poesy affect, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Though the bold wings of poesy affect the clouds and wheel around the mountain tops rejoicing, from her loftiest height she drops well pleased to skim the plain with wild flowers decked, or muse in solemn grove whose shades protect the lingering dew. There steals along, or stops watching the least small bird that round her hops, or creeping worm with sensitive respect. Her functions are they therefore less divine, her thoughts less deep, or void of grave intent her simplest fancies. Should that fear be thine, aspiring votary, ere thy hand present one offering, kneel before her modest shrine, with brow in penitential sorrow bent.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Pelion and Ossa flourish side by side, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Pelion and Ossa flourish side by side, together in immortal books enrolled. His ancient dower Olympus hath not sold, and that inspiring hill which did divide into two ample horns his forehead wide, shines with poetic radiance as of old, while not an English mountain we behold by the celestial Muses glorified. Yet round our sea-girt shore they rise in crowds. What was the great Parnassus' self to thee, Mount Skiddaw? In his natural sovereignty our British hill is nobler far. He shrouds his double front among Atlantic clouds, and pours forth streams more sweet than Castaly.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To Sleep, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. A flock of sheep that leisurely pass by, one after one, the sound of rain and bees murmuring, the fall of rivers, winds, and seas, smooth fields, white sheets of water, and pure sky. I have thought of all by turns, and yet do lie sleepless, and soon the small birds' melodies must hear, first uttered from my orchard trees, and the first cuckoo's melancholy cry. Even thus last night and 2 nights more I lay, and could not win thee, sleep, by any stealth. So do not let me wear to-night away. Without thee, what is all the morning's wealth? Come, blessed barrier between day and day, dear mother of fresh thoughts and joyous health.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fond words have oft been spoken to thee, sleep, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Fond words have oft been spoken to thee, sleep, and thou hast had thy store of tenderest names. The very sweetest fancy calls or frames, when thankfulness of heart is strong and deep. Dear bosom child, we call thee, that dost steep in rich reward all suffering, balm that tames all anguish, saint that evil thoughts and aims takest away, and into souls dost creep like to a breeze from heaven. Shall I alone, I surely not a man ungently made, call thee worst tyrant by which flesh is crossed, perverse self-willed to own and to disown, mere slave of them who never for thee prayed, still last to come where thou art wanted most.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The River Eden, Cumberland, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Eden, till now thy beauty had I viewed by glimpses only, and confess with shame that verse of mine, whate'er its varying mood, repeats but once the sound of thy sweet name. Yet fetched from paradise that honour came rightfully born, for nature gives thee flowers that have no rivals among British bowers, and thy bold rocks are worthy of their fame. Measuring thy course, fair stream, at length I pay to my life's neighbour dues of neighbourhood, but I have traced thee on thy winding way with pleasure sometimes by this thought restrained. For things far off we toil, while many a good not sought, because too near, is never gained.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Surprised by joy, impatient as the wind, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Surprised by joy, impatient as the wind, I turned to share the transport. Oh, with whom but thee, deep buried in the silent tomb, that spot which no vicissitude can find? Love, faithful love, recalled thee to my mind. But how could I forget thee? Through what power, even for the least division of an hour, have I been so beguiled as to be blind to my most grievous loss? That thought's return was the worst pang that sorrow ever bore, save one only, when I stood forlorn, knowing my heart's best treasure was no more, that neither present time nor years unborn could to my sight that heavenly face restore.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Her only pilot, the soft breeze, the boat, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Her only pilot, the soft breeze, the boat lingers, but fancy is well satisfied, with keen-eyed hope, with memory at her side, and the glad muse at liberty to note all that to each is precious as we float gently along, regardless who shall chide, if the heavens smile and leave us free to glide Happy associates, breathing air remote from trivial cares. But fancy and the muse, why have I crowded this small bark with you and others of your kind, ideal crew? While here sits one whose brightness owes its hues to flesh and blood, no goddess from above, no fleeting spirit, but my own true love.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
With ships the sea was sprinkled far and nigh, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. With ships the sea was sprinkled far and nigh, like stars in heaven, and joyously it showed, some lying fast at anchor in the road, some veering up and down, one knew not why. A goodly vessel did I then espy, come like a giant from a haven broad, and lustily along the bay she strode, her tackling rich and of apparel high. This ship was naught to me, nor I to her, yet I pursued her with a lover's look. This ship to all the rest did I prefer. When will she turn, and whither? She will brook no tarrying. Where she comes the winds must stir. On went she, and due north her journey took.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Where lies the land to which yon ship must go? By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Where lies the land to which yon ship must go? Fresh as a lark mounting at break of day, festively she puts forth in trim array. Is she for tropic suns or polar snow? What boots the inquiry? Neither friend nor foe she cares for. Let her travel where she may, she finds familiar names, a beaten way ever before her, and a wind to blow. Yet still I ask, what haven is her mark? And almost as it was when ships were rare, from time to time like pilgrims here and there crossing the waters, doubt and something dark of the old sea, some reverential fear is with me at thy farewell, joyous bark.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sole listener, Duddon, to the breeze that played, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Sole listener, Duddon, to the breeze that played with thy clear voice, I caught the fitful sound wafted o'er sullen moss and craggy mound, unfruitful solitudes that seemed to upbraid the sun in heaven. But now to form a shade for thee green alders have together wound their foliage. Ashes flung their arms around, and birch trees risen in silver colonnade. And thou hast also tempted here to rise mid sheltering pines this cottage rude and grey, whose ruddy children by the mother's eyes carelessly watched sport through the summer day. Thy pleased associates, light as endless May on infant bosoms lonely nature lies.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
What aspect bore the man who roved or fled? By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. What aspect bore the man who roved or fled, first of his tribe to this dark dell? Who first in this pellucid current slaked his thirst? What hopes came with him? what designs were spread along his path, his unprotected bed, what dreams encompassed? Was the intruder nursed in hideous usages and rites accursed, that thinned the living and disturbed the dead? No voice replies. Both air and earth are mute, and thou, blue streamlet, murmuring yield'st no more than a soft record, that, whatever fruit of ignorance thou mightst witness heretofore, thy function was to heal and to restore, to soothe and cleanse, not madden and pollute.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hail to the fields with dwellings sprinkled o'er, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Hail to the fields with dwellings sprinkled o'er, and one small hamlet under a green hill, clustering, with barn and byre and sprouting mill. A glance suffices. Should we wish for more, gay June would scorn us. But when bleak winds roar through the stiff lance-like shoots of pollard ash, dread swell of sound, loud as the gusts that lash the matted forests of Ontario's shore, by wasteful steel unsmitten, then would I turn into port, and, reckless of the gale, reckless of angry Duddon sweeping by, while the warm hearth exalts the mantling ale, laugh with the generous household heartily at all the merry pranks of Donnerdale.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Stepping Stones, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. The struggling rill insensibly is grown into a brook of loud and stately march, crossed ever and anon by plank or arch, and for like use, lo, what might seem a zone chosen for ornament, stone matched with stone in studied symmetry, with interspace for the clear waters to pursue their race without restraint. How swiftly have they flown, succeeding, still succeeding! Here the child puts, when the high-swollen flood runs fierce and wild, his budding courage to the proof, and here declining manhood learns to note the sly and sure encroachments of infirmity, thinking how fast time runs, life's end how near.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Whence that low voice, a whisper from the heart, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Whence that low voice, a whisper from the heart that told of days long past, when here I roved with friends and kindred tenderly beloved, some who had early mandates to depart, yet are allowed to steal my path athwart by Duddon's side. Once more do we unite, once more beneath the kind earth's tranquil light, and smothered joys into new being start. From her unworthy seat the cloudy stall of time breaks forth triumphant memory, her glistening tresses bound, yet light and free as golden locks of birch that rise and fall on gales that breathe too gently to recall aught of the fading year's inclemency.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I thought of thee, my partner and my guide. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. I thought of thee, my partner and my guide, as being passed away. Vain sympathies! For backward, Duddon, as I cast my eyes, I see what was, and is, and will abide. Still glides the stream, and shall forever glide. The form remains, the function never dies, while we, the brave, the mighty, and the wise, we men, who in our morn of youth defied the elements, must vanish. Be it so. Enough, if something from our hands have power to live, and act, and serve the future hour. And if, as toward the silent tomb we go, through love, through hope, and fate's transcendent dower, we feel that we are greater than we know.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Brook, whose society the poet seeks. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Brook, whose society the poet seeks, intent his wasted spirits to renew, and whom the curious painter doth pursue through rocky passes, among flowery creeks, and tracks thee dancing down thy water breaks. I wish were mine some type of thee to view, thee and not thee thyself. I would not do like Grecian artists, give thee human cheeks, channels for tears. No naiad shouldst thou be, have neither limbs, feet, feathers, joints, nor hairs. It seems the eternal soul is clothed in thee with purer robes than those of flesh and blood, and hath bestowed on thee a safer good, unwearied joy, and life without its cares.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Methinks that to some vacant hermitage. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Methinks that to some vacant hermitage my feet would rather turn, to some dry nook, scooped out of living rock, and near a brook, hurled down a mountain cove from stage to stage, yet tempering for my sight its bustling rage in the soft heaven of a translucent pool, thence creeping under sylvan arches cool, fit haunt of shapes whose glorious equipage would elevate my dreams. A beechen bowl, a maple dish, my furniture should be, crisp yellow leaves my bed, the hooting owl my night watch. Nor should e'er the crested fowl from thorp or vill his matins sound for me, tired of the world and all its industry.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
There is a little unpretending rill. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. There is a little unpretending rill of limpid water, humbler far than aught that ever among men or naiads sought notice or name. It quivers down the hill, furrowing its shallow way with dubious will. Yet to my mind this scanty stream is brought, oftener than Ganges or the Nile, a thought of private recollection, sweet and still. Months perish with their moons, year treads on year, but faithful Emma, thou with me canst say that while 10,000 pleasures disappear, and flies their memory fast almost as they. The immortal spirit of one happy day lingers beside that rill in vision clear.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Written upon a blank leaf in the Complete Angler by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. While flowing rivers yield a blameless sport, shall live the name of Walton, sage benign, whose pen, the mysteries of the rod and line unfolding, did not fruitlessly exhort to reverent watching of each still report that nature utters from her rural shrine. Meek, nobly versed in simple discipline, he found the longest summer day too short to his loved pastime given by sedgy lea, or down the tempting maze of Shawford brook, fairer than life itself in this sweet book, the cowslip bank and shady willow tree, and the fresh meads where flowed from every nook of his full bosom gladsome piety.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
O friend, I know not which way I must look. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. O friend, I know not which way I must look for comfort, being, as I am, oppressed, to think that now our life is only dressed for show, mean handiwork of craftsman, cook, or groom. We must run glittering like a brook in the open sunshine, or we are unblessed. The wealthiest man among us is the best. No grandeur now in nature or in book delights us. Rapine, avarice, expense, this is idolatry, and these we adore. Plain living and high thinking are no more. The homely beauty of the good old cause is gone. Our peace, our fearful innocence, and pure religion breathing household laws.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The world is too much with us, late and soon. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. The world is too much with us, late and soon. Getting and spending we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. The sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds that will be howling at all hours, and are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. It moves us not. Great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckled in a creed outworn. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea, have glimpses that would make me less forlorn, have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Milton, thou shouldst be living at this hour. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Milton, thou shouldst be living at this hour. England hath need of thee. She is a fen of stagnant waters. Altar, sword, and pen, fireside, the heroic wealth of hall and bower, have forfeited their ancient English dower. of inward happiness. We are selfish men. Oh, raise us up, return to us again, and give us manners, virtue, freedom, power. Thy soul was like a star, and dwelt apart. Thou hadst a voice whose sound was like the sea, pure as the naked heavens, majestic, free. So didst thou travel on life's common way, in cheerful godliness, and yet thy heart the lowliest duties on herself did lay.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Great men have been among us, hands that penned. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Great men have been among us, hands that penned, and tongues that uttered wisdom, better none. The later Sidney, Marvell, Harrington, young Vane, and others who called Milton friend. These moralists could act and comprehend. They knew how genuine glory was put on, taught us how rightfully a nation shone in splendor, what strength was that would not bend but in magnanimous meekness. France, 'tis strange, hath brought forth no such souls as we had then. Perpetual emptiness, unceasing change, no single volume paramount, no code, no master spirit, no determined road, but equally a want of books and men.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
It is not to be thought of that the flood, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. It is not to be thought of that the flood of British freedom, which to the open sea of the world's praise from dark antiquity hath flowed, with pomp of waters unwithstood, roused though it be full often to a mood which spurns the check of salutary bands, that this most famous stream in bogs and sands should perish, and to evil and to good be lost forever. In our halls is hung armory of the invincible knights of old. We must be free or die, who speak the tongue that Shakespeare spake, the faith and morals hold which Milton held. In everything we are sprung of earth's first blood, have titles manifold.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When I have borne in memory what has tamed. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. When I have borne in memory what has tamed great nations, how ennobling thoughts depart when men change swords for ledgers, and desert the student's bower for gold. Some fears unnamed I had, my country, am I to be blamed? Now when I think of thee and what thou art, verily in the bottom of my heart of those unfilial fears I am ashamed. For dearly must we prize thee, we who find in thee a bulwark for the cause of men. And I by my affection was beguiled. What wonder if a poet now and then among the many movements of his mind felt for thee as a lover or a child.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Near Dover. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Inland, within a hollow vale I stood, and saw, while sea was calm and air was clear, the coast of France, the coast of France, how near, drawn almost into frightful neighborhood. I shrunk, for verily the barrier flood was like a lake or river bright and fair, a span of waters. Yet what power is there, what mightiness for evil and for good! Even so does God protect us if we be virtuous and wise. Winds blow and waters roll, strength to the brave, and power and deity, yet in themselves are nothing. One decree spake laws to them, and said that by the soul only the nations shall be great and free.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Vanguard of Liberty, ye men of Kent, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Vanguard of Liberty, ye men of Kent, ye children of a soil that doth advance her haughty brow against the coast of France, now is the time to prove your hardiment. To France be words of invitation sent. They from their fields can see the countenance of your fierce war, may ken the glittering lance, and hear you shouting forth your brave intent. Left single in bold parley, ye of yore did from the Norman win a gallant wreath, confirmed the charters that were yours before. No parleying now. In Britain is one breath. We all are with you now from shore to shore. Ye men of Kent, 'tis victory or death.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Thought of a Briton on the subjugation of Switzerland, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Two voices are there, one is of the sea, one of the mountains, each a mighty voice. In both from age to age thou didst rejoice, they were thy chosen music, liberty. There came a tyrant, and with holy glee thou fought'st against him, but hast vainly striven. Thou from thy Alpine holds at length art driven, where not a torrent murmurs heard by thee. Of one deep bliss thine ear hath been bereft. Then cleave, O cleave to that which still is left. For, high-souled maid, what sorrow would it be that mountain floods should thunder as before, and ocean bellow from his rocky shore, and neither awful voice be heard by thee?
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An invasion being expected, October 1803, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. 6,000 veterans practised in war's game, tried men, at Killiecrankie were arrayed against an equal host that wore the plaid. Shepherds and herdsmen, like a whirlwind came the Highlanders, the slaughter spread like flame, and Gary, thundering down his mountain road, was stopped, and could not breathe beneath the load of the dead bodies. 'Twas a day of shame for them whom precept and the pedantry of cold mechanic battle do enslave. Oh, for a single hour of that Dundee, who on that day the word of onset gave. Like conquest would the men of England see, and her foes find a like inglorious grave.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Composed in the valley near Dover, on the day of landing, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Here on our native soil we breathe once more the cock that crows, the smoke that curls, that sound of bells, those boys who in yon meadow ground in white-sleeved shirts are playing, and the roar of the waves breaking on the chalky shore. All are English. Oft have I looked round with joy in Kent's green vales, but never found myself so satisfied in heart before. Europe is yet in bonds, but let that pass, thought for another moment. Thou art free, my country, and 'tis joy enough and pride for 1 hour's perfect bliss to tread the grass of England once again, and hear and see, with such a dear companion at my side.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Not love, not war, nor the tumultuous swell, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Not love, not war, nor the tumultuous swell of civil conflict, nor the wrecks of change, nor duties struggling with afflictions strange, not these alone inspired the tuneful shell. But where untroubled peace and concord dwell, there also is the Muse, not loth to range, watching the twilight smoke of cot or grange, skyward ascending from a woody dell. Meek aspirations please her, lone endeavor and sage content, and placid melancholy. She loves to gaze upon a crystal river, diaphanous because it travels slowly. Soft is the music that would charm forever. The flower of sweetest smell is shy and lowly.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To Toussaint L'Ouverture, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Toussaint, the most unhappy man of men, whether the whistling rustic tend his plough within thy hearing, or thy head be now pillowed in some deep dungeon's earless den. O miserable chieftain, where and when wilt thou find patience? Yet die not. Do thou wear rather in thy bonds a cheerful brow, though fallen thyself, never to rise again. Live and take comfort. Thou hast left behind powers that will work for thee. Air, earth, and skies. There's not a breathing of the common wind that will forget thee. Thou hast great allies. Thy friends are exaltations, agonies, and love, and man's unconquerable mind.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When Philoctetes in the Lemnian Isle, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. When Philoctetes in the Lemnian Isle, like a form sculptured on a monument, lay couched, on him or his dread bow unbent, some wild bird oft might settle and beguile the rigid features of a transient smile. disperse the tear, or to the sigh give vent, slackening the pains of ruthless banishment from his loved home and from heroic toil, and trust that spiritual creatures round us move, griefs to allay which reason cannot heal. Yea, veriest reptiles have sufficed to prove to fettered wretchedness that no Bastille is deep enough to exclude the light of love, though man for brother man has ceased to feel.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When haughty expectations prostrate lie, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. When haughty expectations prostrate lie, and grandeur crouches like a guilty thing, oft shall the lowly weak, till nature bring mature release in fair society, survive, and fortune's utmost anger try, like these frail snowdrops that together cling, and nod their helmets, smitten by the wing of many a furious whirl-blast sweeping by. Observe the faithful flowers, if small to great may lead the thoughts, thus struggling used to stand the Emathian phalanx, nobly obstinate, and so the bright immortal Theban band, whom onset fiercely urged at Jove's command, might overwhelm, but could not separate.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
O'er the wide earth, on mountain and on plain, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. O'er the wide earth, on mountain and on plain, dwells in the affections and the soul of man a Godhead like the universal Pan, but more exalted with a brighter train. And shall his bounty be dispensed in vain, showered equally on city and on field, and neither hope nor steadfast promise yield in these usurping times of fear and pain? Such doom awaits us. Nay, forbid it, Heaven! We know the arduous strife, the eternal laws to which the triumph of all good is given, high sacrifice and labor without pause, even to the death. Else wherefore should the eye of man converse with immortality?
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On the Extinction of the Venetian Republic, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Once did she hold the gorgeous East in fee, and was the safeguard of the West. The worth of Venice did not fall below her birth, Venice, the eldest child of liberty. She was a maiden city, bright and free, no guile seduced, no force could violate, and when she took unto herself a mate, she must espouse the everlasting sea. And what if she had seen those glories fade, those titles vanish, and that strength decay? Yet shall some tribute of regret be paid when her long life hath reached its final day. Men are we, and must grieve when even the shade of that which once was great is passed away.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
By Grasmere Lake, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. clouds, lingering yet, extend in solid bars through the grey west. And lo, these waters, steeled by breezeless air to smoothest polish, yield a vivid repetition of the stars. Jove, Venus, and the ruddy crest of Mars, amid his fellows beauteously revealed, at happy distance from earth's groaning field, where ruthless mortals wage incessant wars. Is it a mirror, or the nether sphere, opening to view the abyss in which she feeds her own calm fires? But list! A voice is near, great Pan himself, low whispering through the reeds. Be thankful thou, for if unholy deeds ravage the world, tranquillity is here.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Composed by the seaside near Calais, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Fair star of evening, splendor of the west, star of my country, on the horizon's brink thou hangest, stooping, as might seem, to sink on England's bosom, yet well pleased to rest meanwhile, and be to her a glorious crest, conspicuous to the nations. Thou, I think, shouldst be my country's emblem, and shouldst wink, bright star, with laughter on her banners, dressed in thy fresh beauty. There, that dusky spot beneath thee, that is England, there she lies. Blessings be on you both, one hope, one lot, one life, one glory. Aye, with many a fear for my dear country, many heartfelt sighs, among men who do not love her, linger here.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
As leaves are to the tree whereon they grow, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. As leaves are to the tree whereon they grow and wither, every human generation is to the being of a mighty nation, locked in our world's embrace through weal and woe. Thought that should teach the zealot to forego rash schemes, to abjure all selfish agitation, and seek through noiseless pains and moderation the unblemished good they only can bestow. Alas! with most who weigh futurity against time present, passion holds the scales, hence equal ignorance of both prevails, and nations sink, or struggling to be free, are doomed to flounder on, like wounded whales tossed on the bosom of a stormy sea.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Adieu, Rydalian laurels that have grown, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Adieu, Rydalian laurels that have grown and spread as if ye knew that days might come when ye would shelter in a happy home on this fair mount a poet of your own, one who ne'er ventured for a Delphic crown to sue the god, but haunting your green shade all seasons through, is humbly pleased to braid ground flowers beneath your guardianship self-sown. Farewell! No minstrels now with harp new strung for summer wandering quit their household bowers, yet not for this one's poesy a tongue to cheer the itinerant on whom she pours her spirit while he crosses lonely moors, or musing sits forsaken halls among.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Trossachs by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. There's not a nook within this solemn pass but where an apt confessional for one taught by his summer spent, his autumn gone, that life is but a tale of morning grass withered at eve, from scenes of art which chase that thought away. Turn, and with watchful eyes feed it mid nature's old felicities. Rocks, rivers, and smooth lakes more clear than glass, untouched, unbreathed upon, thrice happy quest, if from a golden perch of aspen spray October's workmanship to rival May. The pensive warbler of the ruddy breast, that moral sweetened by a heaven-taught lay, lulling the year with all its cares to rest.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Admonition by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Well mayst thou halt and gaze with brightening eye. The lovely cottage in the guardian nook hath stirred thee deeply, with its own dear brook, its own small pasture, almost its own sky. But covet not the abode, forbear to sigh, as many do, repining while they look. Intruders who would tear from nature's book this precious leaf with harsh impiety. Think what the home must be if it were thine, even thine, though few thy wants. Roof, window, door, the very flowers are sacred to the poor, the roses to the porch which they entwine. Yea, all that now enchants thee from the day on which it should be touched would melt away.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Forest Huge of Ancient Caledon by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. The forest huge of ancient Caledon is but a name, no more is Inglewood, that swept from hill to hill, from flood to flood. On her last thorn the nightly moon has shone, yet still, though unappropriate wild be none, fair parks spread wide where Adam Bell might deign, with clim o' the clough were they alive again, to kill for merry feast their venison. Nor once the holy abbot's gliding shade his church with monumental wreck bestrown. The feudal warrior chief, a ghost unlaid, hath still his castle, though a skeleton, that he may watch by night and lessons con of power that perishes and rights that fade.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Aix-la-Chapelle by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Was it to disenchant and to undo that we approach the seat of Charlemagne, to sweep from many an old romantic strain that faith which no devotion may renew? Why does this puny church present to view her feeble columns and that scanty chair, this sword that one of our weak times might wear, objects of false pretense or meanly true? If from a traveller's fortune I might claim a palpable memorial of that day, then would I seek the Pyrenean breach that Roland clove with huge two-handed sway, and to the enormous labour left his name, where unremitting frosts the rocky crescent bleach.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Between Namur and Liège by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. What lovelier home could gentle fancy choose? Is this the stream whose city's heights and plains, war's favourite playground, are with crimson stains familiar, as the morn with pearly dews? The morn that now along the silver Meuse, spreading her peaceful ensigns, calls the swains to tend their silent boats and ringing wains, or strip the bough whose mellow fruit bestrews the ripening corn beneath it. As mine eyes turn from the fortified and threatening hill, how sweet the prospect of yon watery glade, with its grey rocks clustering in pensive shade, that, shaped like old monastic turrets, rise from the smooth meadow ground, serene and still.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Composed on Westminster Bridge, September 3rd, 1802, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. This city now doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning, silent, bare. Ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Never did sun more beautifully steep in his first splendour valley, rock, or hill. Ne'er saw I, never felt, a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty heart is lying still.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Roman Antiquities by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. How profitless the relics that we cull, troubling the last holds of ambitious Rome, unless they chasten fancies that presume too high, or idle agitations lull. Of the world's flatteries, if the brain be full, to have no seat for thought were better doom. Like this old helmet, or the eyeless skull of him who gloried in its nodding plume. Heaven out of view, our wishes, what are they? Our fond regrets, tenacious in their grasp, the sage's theory, the poet's lay, mere fibulae without a robe to clasp, obsolete lamps whose light no time recalls, urns without ashes, tearless lachrymals.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The monument commonly called Long Meg and Her Daughters, near the river Eden, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. A weight of awe, not easy to be borne, fell suddenly upon my spirit, cast from the dread bosom of the unknown past, when first I saw that family forlorn. Speak, thou, whose massy strength and stature scorn the power of years, preeminent and placed apart to overlook the circle vast. Speak, giant mother! tell it to the morn while she dispels the cumbrous shades of night? Let the moon hear, emerging from a cloud, at whose behest uprose on British ground that sisterhood, in hieroglyphic round, forth-shadowing, some have deemed, the infinite, the inviolable God that tames the proud.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
There, said a stripling, pointing with meet pride, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. There, said a stripling, pointing with meet pride towards a low roof with green trees half concealed, is Muskill Farm, and that's the very field where Burns ploughed up the daisy. Far and wide a plain below stretched seaward, while descried above sea clouds the peaks of Arran rose, and by that simple notice the repose of earth, sky, sea, and air was vivified. Beneath the random bield of clod or stone, myriads of daisies have shone forth in flower near the lark's nest, and in their natural hour have passed away, less happy than the one that by the unwilling ploughshare died to prove the tender charm of poetry and love.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mary, Queen of Scots, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Dear to the loves and to the graces vowed, the Queen drew back the wimple that she wore, and to the throng that on the Cumbrian shore her landing hailed, how touchingly she bowed. And like a star that from a heavy cloud of pine-tree foliage poised in air forth darts, when a soft summer gale at evening parts the gloom that did its loveliness enshroud, she smiled. But Time, the old Saturnian seer, sighed on the wing as her foot pressed the strand, with step prelusive to a long array of woes and degradations hand in hand, weeping captivity and shuddering fear stilled by the ensanguined block of Fotheringay.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In sight of the town of Cockermouth, where the author was born and his father's remains are laid, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. A point of life between my parents' dust and yours, my buried little ones, am I, and to those graves looking habitually in kindred quiet, I repose my trust. Death to the innocent is more than just, and to the sinner mercifully bent. So may I hope, if truly I repent and meekly bear the ills which bear I must. And you, my offspring, that do still remain, yet may outstrip me in the appointed race, if e'er through fault of mine in mutual pain we breathed together for a moment's space. The wrong by love provoked, let love arraign, and only love keep in your hearts a place.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Place of Burial in the South of Scotland, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Part fenced by man, part by a rugged steep that curbs a foaming brook, a graveyard lies, the hare's best couching place for fearless sleep, which moonlit elves, far seen by credulous eyes, enter in dance. Of church or Sabbath ties no vestige now remains, yet thither creep bereft ones, and in lowly anguish weep their prayers out to the wind and naked skies. Proud tomb is none, but rudely sculptured knights, by humble choice of plain old times, are seen level with earth among the hillocks green, union not sad when sunny daybreak smites the spangled turf, and neighboring thickets ring with jubilate from the choirs of spring.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Most sweet it is with unuplifted eyes, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Most sweet it is with unuplifted eyes to pace the ground, if path be there or none, while a fair region round the traveller lies which he forbears again to look upon, pleased rather with some soft ideal scene, the work of fancy, or some happy tone of meditation, slipping in between the beauty coming and the beauty gone. If thought and love desert us, from that day let us break off all commerce with the Muse. With thought and love companions of our way, whate'er the senses take or may refuse, the mind's internal heaven shall shed her dews of inspiration on the humblest lay.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In King's College Chapel, Cambridge, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Tax not the royal saint with vain expense, with ill-matched aims the architect who planned, albeit labouring for a scanty band of white-robed scholars only, this immense and glorious work of fine intelligence. Give all thou canst. High heaven rejects the lore of nicely calculated less or more. So deemed the man who fashioned for the sense these lofty pillars, spread that branching roof self-poised, and scooped into 10,000 cells, where light and shade repose, where music dwells, lingering, and wandering on as loath to die, like thoughts whose very sweetness yieldeth proof that they were born for immortality.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
They dreamt not of a perishable home, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. They dreamt not of a perishable home, who thus could build, be mine in hours of fear or grovelling thought to seek a refuge here, or through the aisles of Westminster to roam, where bubbles burst and folly's dancing foam melts, if it cross the threshold, where the wreath of awestruck wisdom droops, or let my path lead to that younger pile, whose sky-like dome hath typified by reach of daring art infinity's embrace, whose guardian crest, the silent cross, among the stars shall spread as now, when she hath also seen her breast filled with mementos, satiate with its part of grateful England's overflowing dead.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rural Ceremony by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Closing the sacred book which long has fed our meditations, give we to a day of annual joy one tributary lay. This day when forth by rustic music led, the village children, while the sky is red with evening lights, advance in long array through the still churchyard, each with garland gay, that, carried sceptre-like, o'ertops the head of the proud bearer, to the wide church door charged with these offerings which their fathers bore for decoration in the papal time. The innocent procession softly moves. The spirit of laud is pleased in heaven's pure clime, and Hooker's voice the spectacle approves.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Places of Worship by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. As star that shines, dependent upon star, is to the sky while we look up in love, as to the deep fair ships, which, though they move, seem fixed to eyes that watch them from afar, as to the sandy desert fountains are, with palm groves shaded at wide intervals, whose fruit around the sunburnt native falls, of roving tired or desultory war. Such to this British Isle her Christian fanes, each linked to each for kindred services. Her spires, her steeple towers with glittering vanes, far kenned, her chapels lurking among trees, where a few villagers on bended knees find solace, which a busy world disdains.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Who but is pleased to watch the moon on high? By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Who but is pleased to watch the moon on high, travelling where she from time to time enshrouds her head, and nothing loath her majesty renounces, till among the scattered clouds one with its kindling edge declares that soon will reappear before the uplifted eye a form as bright, as beautiful a moon, to glide in open prospect through clear sky. Pity that such a promise e'er should prove false in the issue, that yon seeming space of sky should be in truth the steadfast face of a cloud, flat and dense, through which must move, by transit not unlike man's frequent doom, the wanderer lost in more determined gloom.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Shepherd Looking Eastward softly said, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. The shepherd, looking eastward, softly said, bright is thy veil, O moon, as thou art bright. Forthwith that little cloud in ether spread, and penetrated all with tender light. She cast away and showed her fulgent head, uncovered, dazzling the beholder's sight, as if to vindicate her beauty's right, her beauty thoughtlessly disparaged. Meanwhile that veil, removed or thrown aside, went floating from her, darkening as it went, and a huge mass, to bury or to hide, approached this glory of the firmament, who meekly yields and is obscured, content with one calm triumph of a modest pride.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
With how sad steps, O moon, thou climb'st the sky. By William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. With how sad steps, O moon, thou climb'st the sky, how silently, and with how wan a face. Where art thou? Thou, so often seen on high, running among the clouds, a wood nymph's race. Unhappy nuns, whose common breath's a sigh which they would stifle, move at such a pace. The northern wind to call thee to the chase must blow to-night his bugle horn. Had I the power of Merlin, goddess, this should be, and all the stars, fast as the clouds were riven, should sally forth to keep thee company, hurrying and sparkling through the clear blue heaven. But Cynthia, should to thee the palm be given, Queen both for beauty and for majesty.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The stars are mansions built by nature's hand, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. The stars are mansions built by nature's hand, and haply there the spirits of the blest dwell, clothed in radiance, their immortal vest. Huge ocean shows within his yellow strand a habitation marvellously planned for life to occupy in love and rest. All that we see is dome, or vault, or nest, or fortress reared at nature's sage command. Glad thought for every season, but the spring gave it while cares were weighing on my heart, mid song of birds and insects murmuring, and while the youthful year's prolific art of bud, leaf, blade, and flower was fashioning abodes where self-disturbance hath no part.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To a Snowdrop by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Lone flower, hemmed in with snows, and white as they, but hardier far, once more I see thee bend thy forehead, as if fearful to offend, like an unbidden guest. Though day by day storms, sallying from the mountain tops, waylay the rising sun, and on the plains descend, yet art thou welcome, welcome as a friend whose zeal outruns his promise. Blue-eyed May shall soon behold this border, thickly set with bright jonquils, their odors lavishing on the soft west wind and his frolic peers. Nor will I then thy modest grace forget, chaste snowdrop, venturous harbinger of spring, and pensive monitor of fleeting years.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hark, 'tis the thrush, undaunted, undepressed, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Hark, 'tis the thrush, undaunted, undepressed, by twilight premature of cloud and rain. Nor does that roaring wind deaden his strain, who carols thinking of his love and nest, and seems as more incited, still more blest. Thanks! Thou hast snapped a fireside prisoner's chain, exalting warbler, eased a fretted brain, and in a moment charmed my cares to rest. Yes, I will forth, bold bird, and front the blast, that we may sing together, if thou wilt, so loud, so clear, my partner through life's day, mute in her nest, love chosen, if not love built, like thine, shall gladden, as in seasons past, thrilled by loose snatches of the social lay.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I dropped my pen and listened to the wind, by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. I dropped my pen and listened to the wind that sang of trees uptorn and vessels tossed, a midnight harmony, and wholly lost to the general sense of men by chains confined of business, care, or pleasure, or resigned to timely sleep. Thought I, the impassioned strain which without aid or numbers I sustain, like acceptation from the world will find. Yet some with apprehensive ear shall drink a dirge devoutly breathed o'er sorrows past, and to the attendant promise will give heed, the prophecy, like that of this wild blast, which, while it makes the heart with sadness shrink, tells also of bright calms that shall succeed.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
It is a beauteous evening, calm and free, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. It is a beauteous evening, calm and free, the holy time is quiet as a nun, breathless with adoration. The broad sun is sinking down in its tranquillity, the gentleness of heaven broods o'er the sea. Listen, the mighty being is awake, and doth with his eternal motion make a sound like thunder, everlastingly. Dear child, dear girl, that walkest with me here, if thou appear untouched by solemn thought, thy nature is not therefore less divine. Thou liest in Abraham's bosom all the year, and worshipst at the temple's inner shrine, God being with thee when we know it not.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To the Cuckoo, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Not the whole warbling grove in concert heard when sunshine follows shower, the breast can thrill like the first summons, cuckoo, of thy bill, with its twin notes inseparably paired, the captive mid damp vaults unsunned, unaired, measuring the periods of his lonely doom, that cry can reach, and to the sick man's room sends gladness by no languid smile declared. The lordly eagle race through hostile search may perish, time may come when never more the wilderness shall hear the lion roar, but long as cock shall crow from household perch to rouse the dawn, soft gales shall speed thy wing, and thy erratic voice be faithful to the spring.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Near Onio's stream I spied a gentle dove, by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Near Onio's stream I spied a gentle dove perched on an olive branch, and heard her cooing mid new-born blossoms that soft airs were wooing, while all things present told of joy and love. But restless fancy left that olive grove to hail the exploratory bird, renewing hope for the few who, at the world's undoing, on the great flood were spared to live and move. O bounteous heaven! Signs true as dove and bough brought to the ark are coming evermore, given though we seek them not, but, while we plough the sea of life without a visible shore, do neither promise ask nor grace implore, in what alone is ours, the living now.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Composed on a May morning, by William Wordsworth. read4librivox.org. Life with yon lambs, like day, is just begun, yet nature seems to them a heavenly guide. Does joy approach, they meet the coming tide, and sullenness avoid, as now they shun pale twilight's lingering glooms, and in the sun couch near their dams, with quiet satisfied, or gambol, each with his shadow at his side, varying its shape wherever he may run, as they from turf, yet hoar with sleepy dew, all turn and court the shining and the green, where herbs look up and opening flowers are seen. Why to God's goodness cannot we be true, and so, his gifts and promises between, feed to the last on pleasures ever new?
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Personal Talk by William Wordsworth. read4librivox.org. I am not one who much or oft delight to season my fireside with personal talk of friends who live within an easy walk, or neighbors daily, weekly, in my sight, and for my chance acquaintance ladies bright, sons, mothers, maidens withering on the stalk. These all wear out of me, like forms with chalk painted on rich men's floors, for one feast night. Better than such discourse doth silence long, long, barren silence, square with my desire, to sit without emotion, hope, or aim, in the loved presence of my cottage fire, and listen to the flapping of the flame, or kettle whispering its faint undersong.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Yet life, you say, is life we have seen and see, by William Wordsworth. read4librivox.org. Yet life, you say, is life we have seen and see, and with a living pleasure we describe, and fits of sprightly malice do but bribe the languid mind into activity. Sound sense, and love itself, and mirth and glee are fostered by the comment and the jibe. Even be it so, yet still among your tribe our daily world's true worldlings rank not me. Children are blessed and powerful, their world lies more justly balanced, partly at their feet and part far from them. Sweetest melodies are those that are by distance made more sweet. Whose mind is but the mind of his own eyes, he is a slave, the meanest we can meet.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Wings have we, and as far as we can go, by William Wordsworth. read4librivox.org. Wings have we, and as far as we can go, we may find pleasure. Wilderness and wood, blank ocean and mere sky support that mood, which with the lofty sanctifies the low. Dreams, books are each a world, and books, we know, are a substantial world, both pure and good. Round these, with tendrils strong as flesh and blood, our pastime and our happiness will grow. There find I personal themes, a plenteous store, matter wherein right voluble I am, to which I listen with a ready ear. Two shall be named, preeminently dear, the gentle lady married to the moor, and heavenly Una with her milk-white lamb.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Nor can I not believe but that hereby, by William Wordsworth, (LibriVox.org). Nor can I not believe but that hereby great gains are mine, for thus I live remote from evil speaking, rancour never sought comes to me not, malignant truth or lie. Hence have I genial seasons, hence have I smooth passions, smooth discourse, and joyous thought. And thus from day to day my little boat rocks in its harbour, lodging peaceably. Blessings be with them, and eternal praise who gave us nobler loves and nobler cares, the poets, who on earth have made us heirs of truth and pure delight by heavenly lays. Oh, might my name be numbered among theirs, then gladly would I end my mortal days.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
How sweet it is when Mother Fancy rocks, by William Wordsworth, (LibriVox.org). How sweet it is when Mother Fancy rocks the wayward brain, to saunter through a wood, an old place full of many a lovely brood, tall trees, green arbours, and ground flowers in flocks, and wild rose tiptoe upon hawthorn stalks, like a bold girl who plays her agile pranks at wakes and fairs with wondering mountebanks, when she stands cresting the clown's head and mocks the crowd beneath her. Verily I think such place to me is sometimes like a dream or map of the whole world. Thoughts, link by link, enter through ears and eyesight with such gleam of all things, that at last in fear I shrink and leap at once from the delicious stream.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Why art thou silent? Is thy love a plant? By William Wordsworth, (LibriVox.org). Why art thou silent? Is thy love a plant of such weak fibre that the treacherous air of absence withers what was once so fair? Is there no debt to pay, no boon to grant? Yet have my thoughts for thee been vigilant, bound to thy service with unceasing care, the mind's least generous wish a mendicant for naught but what thy happiness could spare. Speak! Though this soft warm heart once free to hold 1,000 tender pleasures, thine and mine, be left more desolate, more dreary cold than a forsaken bird's nest filled with snow, mid its own bush of leafless eglantine. Speak, that my torturing doubts their end may know.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To the Planet Venus, an Evening Star, by William Wordsworth, (LibriVox.org). Though joy attend thee, Orient, at the birth of dawn, it cheers the lofty spirit most to watch thy course when daylight, fled from earth, in the grey sky hath left his lingering ghost, perplexed, as if between a splendour lost and splendour slowly mustering. Since the sun, the absolute, the world-absorbing one, relinquished half his empire to the host emboldened by thy guidance, holy star, holy as princely, who that looks on thee touching as now in thy humility the mountain borders of this seat of care, can question that thy countenance is bright, celestial power, as much with love as light.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Valedictory Sonnet by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Serving no haughty muse, my hands have here disposed some cultured flow'rets, drawn from spots where they bloomed singly or in scattered knots, each kind in several beds of one parterre, both to allure the casual loiterer, and that so placed my nurslings may requite studious regard with opportune delight, nor be unthanked unless I fondly err. But metaphor dismissed and thanks apart, reader, farewell. My last words let them be. If in this book fancy and truth agree, if simple nature trained by careful art through it have won a passage to thy heart, grant me thy love. I crave no other fee.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
End of a selection from the Sonnets of William Wordsworth by William Wordsworth.